Mr. Baumgart, are you ready? Okay. I call this meeting of the Teaching and Learning Committee of the Waukesha Board of Education to order. Casey, the meeting has been properly posted.
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much. Next up would be an opportunity for citizens to speak. Anyone like to address the committee? Anyone? All righty, moving on. This evening we have a Bright Lights presentation from our friends at eAchieve. It would be the AVID in the virtual asynchronous world. Welcome.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Hi. Thanks for the opportunity to share a little bit of our success with our AVID elective program.
Thanks for coming.
I'm Jason Smith. I'm the associate principal, and with me is Matt Schulte, one of our English teachers, an outstanding English teacher, and Matt also teaches our AVID elective students. If you can click to the second slide, I'll just introduce things briefly. The question is, why did we bring the AVID elective to eAchieve? And lots of reasons, but one of the big reasons is the student data. The box in the upper right tells us that half of our students in the grades that we are offering the elective for meet the selection criteria. That's students that show high academic potential and students that also fit in that academic middle. So that was the driver for us. And you can see in the lower left, that was our implementation timeline. And this year we offered the elective for 9th through 12th grade students, and we'll do so again next year. And a quick result, in our first 2 years, we saw students increase their grade point averages that were in the elective. So we've got room to grow and room to continue to improve, but the early results are certainly positive. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt to tell everyone a little bit more about the elective at eAchieve.
So at the moment, we have 19 students in the elective class, but we're hoping to build on that, hoping that it scales year over year. We start out the year with an online meeting where everybody signed a contract. You can see the lovely signatures there in the corner. Well, it's a little tricky when you're trying to do it on a trackpad, but we do the best we can. And so then we have our live e-sessions once a week where we work on whatever curriculum, lesson or collaborative activity we need to work on live online together. Twice a week we have opportunity to do AVID tutorials, which is basically a Socratic format, dialogue, inquiry, collaborative experience that the students work on throughout the year and get better and better at as they go along. Lots of interesting things happen in those. We focus on organizational skills with our virtual version of the AVID binders. We work on note-taking skills. Most of the class structure is set up like our other eAchieve classes using the Blackboard software, but we branch out to other products and platforms as needed. We use Zoom for screen sharing and collaboration, Padlet for different ongoing asynchronous discussions, other things. We experiment. We're learning all the time. The whole curriculum is based on the curriculum provided by AVID through their Weeks at a Glance, but it all has to be adapted, of course, to fit our different format, and so we just keep trying to find different creative ways to do that. Going to go to the next one. So that, again, with the penmanship, that's just an example of somebody that was taking some notes. That's what you would be doing on the whiteboard during a tutorial session if you were, in a face-to-face tutorial. So we just share each other's screens and collaborate and help each other answer our questions and solve our problems and take notes on it and learn from that. And then I just have a few little quick clips here, just to kind of give you a little flavor of some of the things we do. We have had guest speakers come in, ranging from doesn't play? Just clicking right in the middle, it won't? You don't see it. Oh, because it's...
Kathy Giorgio. I'm an author, and I am also the director and founder of All Writers Workplace and Workshop, which is a creative writing studio, excuse me, located right in downtown Waukesha.
Dasha, do you want to start by giving us just a little bit of your background, maybe what you're studying and what your path has been so far when it comes to your post-secondary education?
Yeah, so I am currently trying to major in photography. I have gone to Carroll, which was last year, and I switched over to WCTC this year.
So the point is, we are trying to do some, community connections and outreach and get different kinds of voices in the class besides just me, more interesting people for the kids to listen to. When Dasha came to talk, there was just tons of questions. What's college like? What is this like? What are you doing? Next one shows just a couple brief little clips of some of the stuff that goes on during tutorials. Surely there was a better one. No, that's all right. Seems like as long as we're not in.
Definition up there in the screenshot of the dictionary definition was something that arouses strong emotions because of its beauty, but it was actually used in the sense of an adjective. So I didn't really know, I thought that was an accurate description of how I kind of see poetry, like what I like in poetry, but I didn't know if that was actually an accurate description.
So you said you've tried making a schedule before, but then the issue was actually following it once you made it. What way did you try to make the schedule? Like using a calendar, or like what was the logistics of how that was set up?
Just like I have a notebook that I use for school, and I just wrote down like Monday math, 10 o'clock. And then I would have times for when I need to do that, and just kind of like writing stuff out.
So the point is, there's some more notes that you can see, the 3-column note format. They bring questions from their classes that we kind of work on the concept of digging into and finding that specific point of confusion. Where is it that you get stuck? And then we all work on that together. And then let's see what's left over there.
To the last one.
Just the audio clip?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, just skip to Morgan then. She kind of does a good job summing up what we're kind of going for here.
So I've been online schooled for 3 years now. This is my first year with AVID, however, and it's the only year that I've actually felt connected to my classmates and my teachers in online school. And I think that is 100% to do with AVID, because it has become such an outlet for me and my fellow classmates to express ourselves and to feel comfortable just talking about everyday life, everything. And there's really nowhere else to get that in online school apart from AVID, and I'm very thankful for AVID for that.
I think there was like one more slide in there. Yes, there is. So there on the left you can just see one of our little Padlet asynchronous discussions going. Well, you probably can't read it, but anyway, the point is we experiment with different platforms. Put out a little survey. What was that, first semester? Mm-hmm. And as you can see, there was some agreement with AVID gives me the support that I need to be successful in high school, followed by just a few little individual comments that some of the students filled in there. So it's encouraging. We still have a lot to learn, a lot to work on to make the program grow and make it scale, but we've had some good feedback so far.
And if you click to the final slide, we'll just leave with one final quote, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the elective idiot chief.
Mr. Bumgar.
First, I'd like to thank you for going into something that might feel a little bit unusual. I mean, AVID, I don't think was necessarily designed with the intention of doing it online, but I like innovation, and that's an example. I had a question ready. Unfortunately, whoever that was up there, started answering it. And that was, the AVID that I've seen in classrooms involves a lot of interaction student to student to student. And I was sitting there thinking, is this working? Are we losing that element? Well, I don't remember who that was, but she said not only she not losing it, it was the first time she felt connected with the other students. Can you maybe just elaborate a little bit more on how this happens? Because they're scattered, right? I mean, they're not sitting next to each other.
Right.
So that element, which is so important when I go visit a class, is the one I'm wondering about, yet it sounds like it's there. So if you could, a little bit more.
It is still a work in progress. Some days it feels more successful than others, but we just try to build the relational capacity as early as we can in the semester. When we have our opportunities to do the e-sessions, the idea, especially at first, is to try and make them fun, try and make them low risk at first, activities that involve kind of coming out of the shell a little bit at your own pace, okay, so maybe you don't want to jump on the mic, but you can at least type in the chat, just find ways, less threatening ways to share things, shared experience, and, and the same thing happens in the tutorials, really, because that experience of working on a problem together, I think, kind of builds that trust as well. And again, that's a low risk environment, or at least we try to make it a low-risk environment. We have outside tutors come in, too, that are oftentimes closer in age to the students, and that kind of helps them open up a little bit, too. So,
which is what we've been doing with Carol quite a bit, and that's been successful. And I was wondering, actually, it was another thought I had. Are these kids connecting with college-bound kids in college so they get the feeling of what that's about? They are. Yeah. And one last question. This is the first year for this group, and did I see on the sign they're 10th graders? What grade? Or you have 9th?
Second year at Achieve. This is the first year with 9 through 12.
Right. So we have a few of each grade.
Level.
Oh, you do it. So the 19 is a composite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's what I had. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Dietz.
Have you had any collaboration with other online schools or throughout the state or throughout the country as to how to incorporate AVID?
Yeah,
implement it?
That's a timely question. Matt and I had a chance to go out in December and present a longer version of this at the AVID National Conference. Ooh. And we were able to connect with 2 virtual schools, one in Idaho and one in California. And we met and went to dinner and made a connection, and now we meet monthly and do some professional learning and share the AVID experience and the struggles and the successes with them. So that's been really nice to start to grow, with other virtual schools.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I know that we and the board love the AVID program, and it's just great to see it that it's in all of our schools and not just the brick and mortar high schools. So thank you very much.
We love it too. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very good job.
All righty. That would be taking care of our general business. Point of order, Mrs. Brezink is excused this evening, so she will not be joining us. Next up is action items. First action item is approval of the teaching and learning minutes. We're looking for a motion on that.
I'll move for acceptance.
Thank you, Mr. Baumgart. Is there a second? Second from Mrs. Roddy. Any concerns, questions, edits? Looks good to me, but excellent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Thank you very much. Our next approval item would be the approval of overnight trip requests. Couple in here. Well, I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve so we can discuss if we need.
So moved.
Mrs. Roddy, thank you very much. All righty.
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dietz. These are both wrestling tournaments. I know that's a ways out. But we're getting ahead of the curve on these two. Did anyone see any issues, concerns? I didn't see any.
I didn't see any on one of the questions. I'll ask it in Barb's favor.
Sure.
Normally, she would be asking about whether we have funding for those that have a difficult time to meet it, but the funding is very minimal.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's by policy, isn't it? About
well,
for athletic,
He said-
athletic event, yeah.
but these are, it says they're not in competition. That confused me.
You're getting waved at.
Oh, he's getting waved
Microphone.
at. Mike.
Sorry. In the competition series, that would be conference, regional, sectional,
Oh,
state.
Okay.
Thinking about it along
So
that
it is that
terms.
way.
This is a tournament
Yes.
to go compete in. So it's still a competition.
It's not a,
It's just not in the
Okay.
state
Yeah,
series.
it's just not right. It's
thank
not
you.
a conference
Appreciate
tournament.
that.
Anything else?
And for me.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? 4-0. Thank you very much. Alrighty, that concludes our action items for this evening. Up next would be information items. First up would be the Playworks update. Welcome.
Right, good evening.
Good evening.
We are here to talk about Playworks once again in the school district of Waukesha. So I'm going to start off and just give some brief history about where we've been, some results based on that, and where we're going. And then we're going to have the fun part to hear about what's really happening in schools. And then we have some junior coaches here to help you see what it's like for them on a daily basis. So just want to review that Playworks started in the school district of Waukesha in the 2015-16 school year. We started out with Team Up, which began at Blair, Bethesda, Hadfield, and Hawthorne. And so Team Up has a coach from Playworks who spends 1 week at each school a month and works with junior coaches, the teachers, our assistant staff on learning social, emotional, and ways to engage and make our school more safe and inclusive. In 2017-18, we were able to add 4 more schools to another Team Up group, and that was Banting, Higher, Lowell, and Whittier. Then this year, we are going to have Hillcrest, Prairie, and Randall STEM participate in a week-long, what's called Recess Reboot, where they are going to have a saturated week to set up Playworks for their school, and then they will be able to carry this out on their own. So that will be happening in those 3 schools this year. We're very excited through district funding and also support of United Way that we are able to continue to have this support, and you'll hear more even tonight about the successes that this is happening in our schools. I want to share a little bit of some end-of-the-year data that came out last year from Playworks. They do a study where they come out and watch what's happening on the playground, and they look for three main things. They look for indicators of engagement, empowerment, and safety. And last year, our 8 schools scored 3.5 out of 4 on safety indicators, 3.4 out of 4 on engagement, and 3.6 out of 4 on empowerment. And that's pretty cool because 4 of our schools were just in their first year of Playworks. So we're seeing that Playworks is really having an impact not only in creating inclusive environments and safe environments out on the playground, but it's coming back into the classrooms as well and overall school climate. And 96% of our staff agree that Playworks is improving the school's climate. And so I'm going to turn it over to Carly Solberg, our principal at Hawthorne, and she's going to talk about some ways that Playworks is specifically impacting Hawthorne.
At Hawthorne, Playworks has really been instrumental in helping us to provide professional development for our educational assistants. So the professional staff, a few of them, myself and our Playworks coach partner together to plan and deliver this professional development. And it really focuses on the social emotional learning needs of our students and provides our educational assistants with strategies to support those needs. So some of the things that we focused on are building community through play. Our educational assistants learn community building games and activities that they can lead with our students to foster positive relationships within our community. They also have learned about conflict resolution strategies. We know at recess and other, unstructured times of day, conflicts are inevitable. They come up, and it's sometimes stressful as adults to work through those conflicts with students in healthy ways. And so our staff, educational assistants specifically have learned mindfulness strategies so that they can bring calm to stressful situations when kids are experiencing really big emotions. And then specifically some of the strategies they've worked on are channeling, so they can provide students with healthy alternatives to the choices that they're making. They have learned to shift their language, so instead of naming the things that we don't want students to do or telling them stop and no, we can state the positive things that we do want to see from them. And then finally, the deal wheel, which you can see up there, has been a tool that our educational assistants have used frequently, along with our professional staff. It's on everybody's lanyards. And the neat thing about this is that kids are starting to use it independently. And in fact, the other day I was in the lunchroom with our 3rd grade lunch helpers, and we had our little meeting to prepare them for their roles. And one of them was like, "We need the deal wheels." And so they all have lanyards too now with the deal wheels. And so we have students who are using these with other students. And so the professional development for educational assistants has just been really helpful to support those needs that our kids have.
So I'm Mary Garcia Velez from Banting. And I have some very important members of our community here. Darcy Dahlman is one of our Playworks coaches, and she works with all of the students. You might recognize her. She's been at the board recognized before. And so she works with the students, and I'm just going to ask a couple of questions, a question to Darcy and then some questions to our Playworks students. Come on up, Christian. So, just pull your chair right up. So, Darcy, could you just talk a little bit about, you've been at Banting before we had Playworks and since we've had Playworks, and what have you noticed?
I think the best part about Playworks is just bringing back I have a loud voice, is just bringing back some of the just classic games like Foursquare. I can look around today and all the Foursquare courts are taken. So it's just bringing back classic games like that. Kickball, Foursquare is so much fun. And the best part is the new games. And I think we're going to show you guys a couple tonight. But I think one of the best things about it is just seeing all the kids playing. Kids of different grade levels, different everything. All the kids from who's ever out at the lunchroom on the playground at lunchtime is playing Foursquare. They're playing kickball. Today we yelled, Christian or someone asked me today, let's yell for kickball. So we yelled for kickball, and kids came running and started playing kickball. So we're always moving and making sure that kids are always playing and having fun. And I think one of the things that we talked about on the deal wheel is the Rochambeau. I think that's just such a great for the kids to just solve the problem themselves. They'll say, oh, that was on the line. No, it wasn't. I'm not out. You're out. And they don't want to get out. When you're getting closer to the A in Foursquare, you do not want to get out. So we'll just say Rochambeau. We're not going to waste time on arguing. We're going to Rochambeau. Whoever wins that moves on. And don't you guys think that they do that really well? I think they're getting better and better at that. Our coach Maggie talks a lot about us making sure that the kids are talking appropriately to each other. A lot of high-fiving, a lot of lightning lingo they call it. Say, good job. That's not a natural born instinct in a lot of kids to say, oh, good job, Susie, and good job, Johnny. But that's what Playworks reminds us to teach the kids on the playground, is to say, we'll go over and stand and watch a game and say, good job, John, good job, way to go. Way to hang in there and keep playing. And kids that aren't doing so well in Foursquare, because I'm getting pretty good. So not everybody wants to come in my game, but let them try. So we do encourage the aides to play. We do encourage they're playing jump rope, and we're bringing back old jump rope songs. So it's just a lot of, I think, reminding us of how it was, to play games. A lot of kids forgot that. So like I said, we're just playing games the whole time we're out there. These guys are just, anything I ask them to do, they're willing to do. Christian set up hot shot soccer the other day. Ashley's always willing to do anything. Gael is amazing. He'll go play soccer with all the kids. So we're just always playing and having fun.
So one thing that I just want to talk about, that this doesn't only happen outside when we have indoor recess, and we might have had a little bit of weather this year that would have caused us to stay indoors for recess. It happens inside as well. When we had an indoor recess a month or so back, I was just walking around, and the kids had used a carpet in the room, and they set up with shirts a Foursquare, and they were all playing Foursquare. They used these soft balls. They were all playing Foursquare inside in the classroom. Of course, I had to join them, and I did get into A at least once. So just to tell you a little bit about what happens not only outside but also inside. And now I want to ask the students. Gael, I'm going to start with you. If you can just tell me what you like about being a Playworks junior coach.
I like being a junior coach because it's fun how you can go outside and play with the younger students. You can also teach them leadership and how they can be role models when they're in 5th grade.
Excellent. Ashley, same question for you.
Same, I like to show them, to give them confidence, and it doesn't matter if you got out of a square. It's just you would always get another chance. It's like you would always keep going, and to show them that friendship is everything. So if you see a kid just roaming around, invite them to play. Don't just look at them and just ignore. And we have problem with those, so we just help them out and include them in different games, and and with the games outside, we include them in games like that too.
Thanks. Christian, same question.
My favorite part about being a junior coach is to help the little kids whenever they're in a conflict, if they're arguing, if they're in a fight, and showing them how to be a role model. Because we do cheers and stuff, so they'll be quiet when they're in line, and we always say the quietest line goes in first.
I have a quick question for you about helping with conflicts. I know sometimes there's a problem with people saying I was out or I wasn't out in kickball, and Ms. Dahlman talked a little bit about Rochambeau. What is Rochambeau?
Rochambeau is basically rock, paper, scissors, for those of you who don't know.
I think everybody knows rock, paper, scissors, but you might not have known that it was Rochambeau. So now we're going to go ahead and teach you a game.
Yeah, let's do it, you guys.
So do we have anyone that would like to join in this game? We could do it right here in the middle. It's easy, and it's with a softball. What do you think?
Yeah, you can put it right in the center.
Dodgeball?
Yeah, come on, John. Yeah, bring it on.
So you have to be able to describe how to play the game. So who wants to tell how to play the game?
Do you want to explain?
Yeah. So we get in a circle, and there's a person in the middle, and then he can throw the ball, or he can fake throw it, and whoever flinch sits down.
You're going to be our thrower guy. So we have to cross our arms. So if he throws the ball toward us, we do have to catch it if he throws it. But if he doesn't throw it, then we're out if he flinch. So come on, guys.
All right.
That was the fastest we ever lost.
I'll remember that.
But you do have to catch it, but you did flinch. But that's good, Ashley. Good job. Oh, I flinched a little bit. I was really going to get you guys. Good job.
Of course, they're coaches.
You're out, Greg.
That was really nice, you guys. You can come back over. I think you can see they know how to play the games very well. So they're able to teach it very well to others. I do just want to, let me have this.
Oh, yep, go ahead. Sorry.
I do just want to recognize Maggie, Coach Maggie, who is a person from Playworks who comes to our building all the time and works with our students and works with our aides and delivers the training and does an outstanding job. Again, it's really about our kids learning different skills in the area of social emotional growth. So I think that's all. Any questions?
Roughly how many of the kids are, and what grade are the kids in that are the coaches?
So first, I think kindergarten comes out, then like.
No, how many kids are coaches that like you guys?
15.
Like
15.
like about 15.
And what grades are they in?
4th to 5th grade.
15 in one school? Thank you.
And there's also like 2 or 3 students from each class that's in Playworks.
How do you become a coach?
So what we did was, you could have did it if you want to, but we just filled out a paper and just some questions like simple questions like are we like what type of games we like and things like that, and like we just like being outside, people who like being outside and cooperating with kids younger than them.
And they have to be good students. The teachers will get involved and say that these kids are caught up in their work or capable of having a little extra time outside.
I want to just add something. It's not a question. It's for you kids. I appreciate the fact that you're so willing to come and talk to us and you're not scared of us, because we're not here to bite or anything like that. But, you know, it's not easy. I know that. What are you, 4th and 5th graders? It's not easy for you to come in and talk to a bunch of strangers. I know that. But you've done a good job, and you should be applauded for that. So good job.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank the students, and I'd also like to thank their parents for bringing them. Muchísimas gracias a los padres que llevaron los niños también. Thanks so much to the parents who brought their students.
Dietz, did you have a question?
Just for the students, the junior coaches, what got you into wanting to be a junior coach, and what keeps you into that role? Because I doubt that you're getting paid for it. Sometimes it's more than money.
Well, I like about it that you get to be out in the fresh air. In general, I like sports, so I get to play sports and do what I like. It's a fun time.
And how does it feel to be a coach?
It feels awesome. It's cool.
Awesome. That's good.
I like going outside and like playing with kids younger than me because like they understand you sometimes, and I like solving the problems because like sometimes it doesn't even be a big problem. It's just something that they complain about or something, or they don't have anything to do. So we include those. So those games are there to include the kids to come play with us and the other people who wants to play. And I like being a junior coach because it's fun to play outside.
What guided me want to be a junior coach was helping out little kids like play games and help them solve conflicts, because I mean, like, we can't like all figure out how to play foursquare on our own or kickball or like baseball or anything, so we eventually gotta learn it from somebody.
And I'm sure the impact, as we've heard tonight, is not only outside, but it comes back into the classroom, which is really huge for any teacher because they want that valuable instructional time uninterrupted by other things that are happening, especially like outside problems coming in. So I'm sure the teachers that receive the kids as they come back in are very appreciative of all your extra efforts too. So thank you very much. Very proud of each and every one of you. Keep up the great work. You're doing great things, and I'm sure very, very valuable members of each one of your schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Alrighty. Next up on our information items is the math technology update, grades 4 through 8.
Fine, I think.
Want you by yourself?
Did you say so? No. Sorry.
All right. I'm back here tonight to talk about our digital math review. I was here last year at this point in time. And for tonight, I really want to provide information on the process that we followed this year for selection of our math digital resources for the next year. And you are here. I didn't know you were coming. And we'll make a recommendation to be considered for action at the May Teaching and Learning Committee. So last year we made a recommendation for 1 year with the use of 10 marks for grades 4th, 5th, and the middle school level. After we made that recommendation, 10 marks announced that they're going to be going out of business the summer of 2019, so this summer. And so we needed to conduct another math review this year as to what we were going to do for next steps. And so that's what I want to share with you tonight is where we're at with that process, what we've done along the way. So this is at the elementary level. Dan can talk about the secondary. But this school year, we reviewed about 20 different programs and narrowed the pool down to 5. And so Dan and I started that process out and looked at all the different digital programs that were out there. We narrowed it down to 5. And then with those 5, we analyzed those 5 programs with the coaches, the math coaches that we have in the district, to narrow the pool even further. At that point, we narrowed it down to 2 different programs. And so we took 3 buildings, Banting, Hillcrest, and Whittier, because we felt like those 3 buildings represented our district well. And we decided to pilot those 2 programs that the math coaches narrowed it down to. And since this was 4th and 5th grade at the elementary level, we worked with about 270 students. Those 270 students spent about 3 weeks working with ST Math and trying that program. That is the program that is currently being used at our 6th and 7th grade level. So we piloted that one. And then the second 3 weeks, they piloted Matific, which is a newer digital program that's out there. We wanted to get teacher input. We wanted to get student input this time around. What the teachers needed to do was look at our criteria for evaluation. This is the same criteria we have used in the past. We brought this to you last year. So they look at rigor, inquiry and sense-making, vocabulary, fluency, feedback, all of those different parts. What makes a well-rounded program, and make sure, of course, that it fits with our math vision. About a week right before spring break, we pulled those teachers together. So it was a total of the teachers from Whittier, Banting, and Hillcrest, and we had a meeting where we started to analyze all of these programs. And what they needed to do was to start saying, where did these scales, or where did each of the programs fit on each of these aspects? And they could rank it anywhere from 0 to a 4. And so this is a compilation of all of that information. So you can see Matific and ST Math really were similar in a lot of the areas, as far as the rigor, the inquiry, and sense-making. And then you could start to see where Matific started to show a little bit more promise in some of the areas such as vocabulary and fluency. Especially in the assigning part, the teachers that piloted really liked that they could differentiate within Matific. They could assign things to some groups of students, but then assign something different to another group. And so that's why you can see the assigning, they ranked it as a 4 overall. Some of the things that they saw as they were looking through these programs were that I asked them to decide, if they had to choose a program, what would you choose? And they could choose Matific, they could choose ST Math, they could choose no preference, like I like both of them as well, or I couldn't live with this program. If you were going to take this to the board, I couldn't live with it. Luckily, nobody said they couldn't live with either one. And you can see 5 of the teachers said Matific was their program of choice, and then 2 people said they really felt both programs were of value, that both would be well used going forward. Some of the comments that they had given specifically for Matific, I wanted to just note that, was they talked about the wide range of rigor, the engagement for the students. They felt like the students were very engaged with the program. They liked the flexibility, like I said, in the assigning of the work that needed to be accomplished. They liked the reporting options. They felt like the information they were getting back was something that they were going to be able to use right away in their classrooms when they started to work with kids in small guided groups. They felt there was helpful feedback for the students, as well as they liked that Matific has a Spanish option. It actually, Matific, as we dug deeper, comes in like 20 different languages. It's international. And so we could work with any of our languages that might be coming in. In 4th and 5th grade, English is the language of instruction. However, when we get new arrivals into our country, it's nice to be able to have them interact with a program that could be changed to their language. And so that was one of the benefits that they felt was with Matific. When we asked the students, they also completed a survey, and I asked them 4 questions in particular. The program helped me to understand the math I was learning. So there you can see ST Math they felt was a little bit higher than Matific. The second comment, or the second question that they need to analyze, was the work the program gave me was at my just right level for my learning. The program provided me feedback as to what I needed to do to be different, to do differently to be successful. And then I had fun using the program. So you can see with the students, ST Math was a little bit higher, but still Matific had some really strong possibilities. The comments that students made about Matific, because there was open areas with the comments, they said they like it when I get something right. It was kind of like Dreambox, but it was for older kids. Dreambox is what we do in our K-3 program. So it said it was like Dreambox, but it's for us older kids. So they thought that was good. The lessons were kind of like a game, and you could earn monsters and stuff. It also taught me things. It helped me to do math and have fun doing it. It taught me real math, that it was fun and that you get little stickers and it shows that you helped a monster family. But the math levels were very creative and good. And so they felt like there was some things to learn with Matific as well. So with that, the recommendations that I'm coming forth with for the elementary level is based on that pilot, looking at what our teachers were commenting and our students, is that we would purchase Matific for our students in 4th and 5th grade students for next year, and looking at a 2-year contract. If you recall, last year with Dreambox, I came with a 3-year deal because elementary is using the math programs quite extensively. And so we'd like to propose to use Matific for a 2-year, so we're still on that same cycle. The cost for a 2-year contract for Matific is right around $10 per student, which is, when we compare prices, is really quite inexpensive compared to even ST Math. And so that is the recommendation that we'll be coming forward with in May.
Similar to Rose, we started out with a whole bunch of programs. We narrowed them down, myself and Rose, brought them to the coaches for a little bit of feedback. But in my situation, I brought all the programs, the four that we selected, to all the middle school math teachers during one of our vertical planning times. They had an opportunity to test drive all those programs and then provide feedback on a survey and where they wanted to go next. I want to just remind you, last year we adopted ST Math at the 6th and 7th grade level, and we adopted 10 marks at the 8th grade level. So with 10 marks going out of business, 8th grade was our major focus. We still wanted to leverage this time to get feedback about ST Math as well. So looking at our recommendations for 6th and 7th grade, which is currently using ST Math, it's to continue with ST Math. We're looking at extending the contract to a multi-year subscription, which provides us a ton of cost savings over the next 2 years when, once again, what Rose mentioned, that cycle closes. The great news is that with us shifting some of the license we purchased last year, we were able to move to that subscription cost for this year, and for every year here on out, it'll cost every year starting, not next school year, but the following, will be $9 per student, which is nearly 60% off of the overall cost to start the program. So that's really great. You can see in our graph here that 75% of the teachers who filled out this survey said they wanted to keep ST Math for 6th and 7th grade. They also had the option to stop using ST Math because they preferred another choice, but that was not too many, only 25% of our teachers. For 8th grade, it was a little bit different story. So looking at our data from the last few years of usage with 10 marks at the 8th grade level, there's a lot of content to cover in that curriculum as kids are transitioning into pre-algebra. The consensus from 3 out of 4 of our middle schools, based on that survey, was that they didn't want to continue with any supplemental resource at this time. They felt that their usage levels, they looked at it, they were honest, they said, we don't want to put money into something that we're not going to use. They also felt that 10 marks was something they really liked because of the rigor, and they couldn't find something at that algebra almost high school level that rivaled it at this time. So those are the reasons why they chose to move forward without a paid supplemental resource for right now. And remember, just for all of you to know, it is a supplemental resource. It just enhances what we currently have. We have some great things already going on, and teachers are already starting to talk about the free supplemental options that are available out there that could help in some instances, but not quite to the level of 10 marks.
Okay. So with that, any questions that you may have for us?
I have one. The first one I have, when we went in with 10 marks, I don't remember how many years we went, went for. Was this a 2 or 3 year contract? And if so, did we get,
So when we came last year, we had them 3 years previous. And then last year we went with a 1 year because of middle school going to 1 year. We wanted to keep 10 marks on the same usage that was happening at the 8th grade. So we only did go for 1 year.
Year we're just finishing?
Yeah, that year that
so
we're finishing.
Nothing lost there.
Nothing lost.
And will you be able to ramp, whatever your choice is, and apparently in your case it's a
Matific.
Yeah, Matific, yeah, whatever. Apparently you feel you'll be able to get that up and running in time for the September?
Right.
Assuming we approve it?
If it's approved, I'm already in contact with the reps and then looking at how we can provide professional development for our 4th and 5th grade teachers, hopefully during our summer institute, so that they're on board and they have that knowledge as to how to move forward. The teachers who piloted it felt like it was really intuitive, being that they've used 10 marks, they've used some of those digital platforms. It was easy for them to transfer into this new program.
And Dan, you're okay with?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the consensus was that it just wasn't a smart move to dive into something and spend money on something that we just didn't feel like we had the time to do with the curriculum constraints we have.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? I have a couple. Is Matific, is that web-based or is that server-based? What do we have to do with?
It's web-based, but it also has an app that you can download as well.
Oh, okay.
And we would upload through Clever, which is what we're already doing for our program. So it's very similar to what we're doing.
Okay, excellent. And how does the professional development work? Do they send somebody out at?
That's what I actually have a phone conversation with the rep on Thursday of this week. When we did it initially for our pilot, it was webinar. So they
Okay.
just called in and they could share their screen
Okay.
and they could talk through us and we could ask questions that way. I am hoping I can get a rep here in September or in August if we go with the full pilot, but I don't have all of those specifics at this point in time.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
All righty. And our last information item of the evening is instructional coach model. Welcome.
Hello. I'm just going to be here for a minute and then turn it over. I'd like to introduce to you, we have Chris, who is one of our district instructional math coaches, and Courtney, who is one of our district instructional literacy coaches. And then we have Katie and Abby from Hillcrest, who are second grade teachers, and everyone is going to share their experience either through being a coach or being coached in our district model. So one of the first things that I want to share is what a great group that we are blessed to have in the school district of Waukesha of coaching, because coaching is that universal language of change and learning. And I think that it's really important, and I feel proud that in the school district of Waukesha, we believe that not only do we want our students to be learners, but we want our adults to be learners in our community as well. And so coaching allows for us to continue to do that. In the school district, we have 3 district priorities for our coaches. Our first priority is to make sure that we are supporting our educators who are in their first 3 years in our district. Our second priority is to make sure that literacy, math, and disciplinary literacy, which goes across all content areas, that we are supporting teachers through coaching opportunities there and creating model classrooms, which you'll hear some more about. And then the third thing is that our coaches are supporting our SAIL frameworks in our buildings. And so that is how we prioritize the work of our coaches. Another celebration that you'll hear about tonight is a recent experience that all 4 of these individuals had with DPI, and they came to interview the school district of Waukesha about what's happening, and so they will tell you a little bit more about it.
I first want to just talk about and highlight the interview that we were given the opportunity to be a part of. The statewide coaching coordinator, his name is Joseph Kankey, came over to Hillcrest, and Courtney and I had the opportunity to do an interview with him. And his newsletter that he writes for DPI focuses on and highlights a success story in the state of Wisconsin on implementing a coaching model. He chose the school district of Waukesha to highlight that coaching model. And what his hope is that he goes from a system level, that's really his focus, then it goes down to a school and a teacher level, but his focus is system level and hopes that he can generate a vision for what the coaching model can look like across the state of Wisconsin, which gave us a great opportunity, and we were very honored to be able to share our coaching model. We talked with him at length. This was on February 21st. He came in and sat down with Courtney and I, went into Abby and Katie's classroom as well, and witnessed us in a coaching conversation, talked to them about just experiences with coaching, which they'll mention a little bit. But it gave Courtney and I an opportunity also to reflect on the great things that we are doing in the school district of Waukesha in terms of coaching, and really the focus that we have on really retaining the teachers that we have, especially at our first through third year teachers, and retaining those quality teachers with the support systems that we have in place. So we were able to reflect, and Courtney and I sat there after the interview and we're like, yeah, that was really good, and we do have a lot of great things going on. So it really gave us an opportunity to sit back and say, like, wow, this is really, it's not something that we probably would have done. We've just gone about our daily business us doing what we do. But it to talk with them and see the impact that it has on them, but ultimately their students has been, it was huge.
So one of the ideas that we kept coming back to in this interview, and we talked to him for a pretty good part of the morning, was just the importance of developing that collaborative culture and ongoing support for our teachers. And I think we've really seen that happen because we've had some time, both Chris and I now, at two of our buildings, we've had some time there. And the nice thing over the years, I've been at in one building for 4 years, in the other building for 5 years. And what I've seen through this time is that we've been able to develop these relationships and the trust at much deeper levels. The relationships have become much more trusting, much more productive, much more collaborative. And when we have those really strong relationships, we've seen that we've been able to dig into some really, really important work. And then in turn, we've seen some incredible shifts in instructional practice as well as student outcomes.
One thing, yeah, right? It's okay. Another thing that I want to highlight is just the commitment that we do have to coaching. And what I mean by the commitment is really this is my third year in the district, and over the last 3 years, there was a lot of different duties that we had assigned to us in terms of not just coaching. There was a lot of other things that we were part of. And over the last couple of years, those have been really stripped away to really focusing in on what we know, and that is working with teachers on instruction and growing instruction. So taking away a lot of the extra meetings that we've had, or testing coordinators where we're in charge of state testing. We've allocated that to different places to be able to allow us to really be in classrooms and be present.
The other thing that we were really proud of was our buildings. We felt like have really made an evolution in our e-sale process. And e-sale is the tool that we use to assess implementation of instructional practices. And when we first started, kind of as a team at both of our schools, we felt like teachers kind of felt like the e-sale was being done to them rather than more of a collaborative process, and we've really worked hard to evolve that. Currently, after we do an instructional walkthrough like the e-sale, we will sit down with each teacher individually, myself, Chris, and the principal, and we'll have a conversation, and it really is in the teacher's hands to start with celebrations and things that are going really well, things that we maybe saw that day, or even things just that we didn't see. And then it shifts to what the professional goals are for the teacher. So we've developed that collaborative conversation, and we've also been able to take it a step further now and link that to our coaching. So our coaching focuses on the needs that the teachers express when they're sharing those professional goals. And we've really created more of this e-sale being an idea that helps us link student experiences to instructional practice and to coaching. And I believe that our teachers would also say that it's become a really collaborative process and really positive results from that.
And then one of the last things, if you see on the slide behind you, there's that is our coaching framework, and I talked to Joseph a lot about our adaptation. We adapted this from Linda Dorn as well as Zull's work on. It was a book that we read on the art of the changing brain, and this was all derived from that. And we created this framework to better align and structure our cycles to the learning cycle and how people learn. So the acquisition phase is just us going in and working with teachers and modeling and having them watch. The integration phase is us going away and just checking in to give feedback. The consolidation phase is us coming back in to watch what was practiced and then giving more feedback, and then possibly starting the cycle all over again. So he was very intrigued by this framework because it really does focus on the needs of the teacher, and it really promotes transfer. And that's really what our entire model is based off of, which is very different than any model that he has witnessed across the state. That when he goes into buildings, the focus is not necessarily always on that transfer and that self-regulation for teachers being able to own that learning and go in and practice it, with us supporting along the way. So it was nice to see that. One more thing before we pass it over to Katie and Abby is that he did ask us, one of the questions he asked us, which again was a reflection, was give me one moment that, that really highlights your coaching experiences thus far. So, and I was able to tell him about one teacher in particular that I've worked with that, and it made me reflect on the gratitude, on just small tokens of gratitude and how far that can go. I was in a classroom doing an observation before I left. I did something very simple, which you would think would be very simple, is just to write some things that I saw that were really, really good on a Post-it note. And I left it on this teacher's keyboard. And didn't hear anything else, didn't hear anything about it. Almost a year goes by, and the next school year she opens up her computer and she's got it taped to her computer. So that was a moment for me to say that did matter, and that did transfer, and that the gratitude, that small piece of gratitude, stuck with that teacher and really kept that teacher kind of going. And again, opens that line of that relationship and that trust that we have. So we're going to turn it over to, Katie, you want to start?
Sure.
All right. Katie's going to share experiences, just how the coaching experience has helped her as an educator, how the relationship between her and I've worked with Katie. She was our anchor classroom, and just a review of anchor classroom. I think we've talked about this before, but that's where we go in and we spend an immense amount of time with one teacher and go through all of our framework, kind of step by step, all those big rocks, and we tackle them one at a time. And I get to know the kids, and I spend a lot of time in there co-teaching and right alongside Katie, and she can talk about that.
So this is my 5th year. It's my 4th year teaching 2nd grade. And I know Chris kind of talked about, coaches are so important for your first 3 years. And that, when I came in, I was hired with 2 weeks before the school year started. And I remember being terrified. This is my 2nd career, and it was like, you feel like I tried to get everything I could from the teacher before me, and then you're like, oh gosh, here I am. And the coaching, when someone said to me, do you want to be coached? I'm like, yes, please, I need direction. Now it's my 5th year, 4th year in 2nd grade, and I still want to be coached. And I think about, I'm a teacher. And I'm like, oh, I'm a teacher now, but that doesn't mean my learning has stopped. I've always liked to be in school. And, I went back, got my master's, and then I'm thinking I really like learning. And so I think the coaching model really benefits me because I don't ever feel like I've learned it all. I never feel like, they're like, oh, you're the anchor classroom, the model classroom. I don't feel like I'm doing this extraordinarily great thing. I always feel like there's something else that I could be doing. Chris and we revamped my whole planning, the way that I plan math workshop. I didn't have to do that. It was, would have worked the way I was doing it, but I just started to feel like, he showed me what some other teachers were doing and, things he had developed with other people, and that sparked my interest. And I just don't ever feel like I want change. I always want to keep evolving in what I'm doing. And having a coach there, especially to collaborate and bounce ideas off of, it just makes you feel like you're not alone. You have somebody to talk to and go through the whole process with. And I've never felt like I was just being thrown in there. I always felt like, okay, you're going to start off and I'm going to model some stuff for you. So it's just like what we do for students, but they're doing it for us as teachers. So it's modeled first. I don't feel overwhelmed. Then we're doing it together, and then it's that slow release. It's just like how we scaffold for students. So I think it's made an immense amount of difference in how I teach. The kids have a relationship with him. He comes in, they're like, oh, Mr. Holloway. And, so they know, and just the way that they've grown, they're talking more. I just think it's made a huge difference. So that's kind of my experience. I could talk forever.
And then I'll just give a little bit of background on Abby too. Abby is a second-year teacher. Graduated college 2 years ago. She came to us at Hillcrest, and so she's in more of her first 3 years coaching framework.
Awesome. So like Courtney said, I started my teaching journey last year, but that beginning stage you always hear throughout college. I heard your first year is going to be the worst. It's going to be tough. You're going to struggle. You may not like it. But get through it. But with the help of Courtney and feeling so comfortable with Courtney as my coach, I felt like she was almost like my cheerleader too. She was always there pumping me up. So I never really felt like I was failing or anything like that. She kept me going and kept helping me set goals and stay on track and everything. And I remember in my interview, I was asking questions at the end, and one of the things I asked was, is there a mentoring program of some sort as I enter in my first year teaching? And I never thought that the coaching model that they have would be what it was, because at schools that I student taught at or field experiences that I had, it was always just a more veteran teacher in the building that was mentoring someone who was newer. And with that model, I feel like if I was in that position and having to go to another teacher, I would feel more of like a nuisance, and I would feel like more I was kind of intruding on their time, because I know how teacher time is so precious. But having Courtney there, knowing that her job is to help me, I feel like I can go to her with big problems, little things here and there, and a lot of times little things turn into big ideas, and it's a really awesome thing. And every time we meet, we're setting goals and we're working towards something bigger. And at the end of last year, I said to her, I'm like, I feel like I need to do something more with this language workshop, discussions and conversations, and that's where our goal kind of took off for this year. We've been focusing on discourse and getting students having these powerful, meaningful conversations. And without Courtney coming in and modeling and observing and giving me the feedback that I needed in order to guide my instruction and help my learners have those conversations, I don't know what kind of conversations my kids would be having, to be honest. So I think it's been really awesome having her there. The kids, she's always coming in and out of the classroom. So when we do have those coaching conversations outside of the classroom, she's not just listening to what I'm saying is going on in the classroom. She's been a part of it, so she knows exactly what's happening. So it's never just me speaking to her. It's her speaking from experience of being a part of it. And yeah. Can I add on to what you said, though? Sorry. Speaking of conversation, but speaking of discourse, like we also worked on discourse, and we saw how like with math and reading, like now they're using the same talk moves. So it's not like it's just like, oh, him and I do math, and her and Courtney do reading. Like it really is fluid throughout like the whole second grade. So I mean, they're very used to having coaches around, and like we're all working as a team. So even their goals, translate to ours as well. So we're collaborating between the four of us.
So I feel like that was like really nice shout outs to us. So I want to end with some shout outs to them though, with going back to Joseph from DPI in the article. I think one thing that really stuck with Chris and I that we had to like run in their rooms and tell them was he came to us afterward, like just kind of like we were talking, walking down the hall, and he's like, that was some incredible instruction happening. And he's like, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I would love to have her in those classrooms. So we just felt really, really good that spoke to everything that we would want for our buildings and for our district.
Questions? Unger.
Probably more observations than questions, but I'll share them with you because I think they're relevant. At the beginning, you start talking about the DPI coming in for an interview. There's two ways to look at that. And I got a little scared up here. So, Chris, when you went through what he was really here for, that was great. I mean, I've been around quite a while, and I am proud of this district, and you've just added another little piece. When we keep seeing these things happening in this district, some of it's very quiet, but some of it deserves to be out in the open, and I think you just shared a little bit of that with us. So that was one of those observations. I was glad it was the other thing. Another comment, Courtney, that you mentioned on eSale. I don't remember how many years back it was, but when we started that program, I did go out on a couple visits, walk along with the, whatever you call them, the guys that are running the ESAL program. And I understand when you say that didn't necessarily feel good for a lot of the teachers, and you are absolutely right. So when you said they're feeling better about it now than they did whenever that was, that also made me feel good because I wasn't real confident that that was a good program the way I saw it then.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too, like, I feel like we started these conversations like 3 years ago, and then it was like, I come in for my feedback, and you come in for your feedback. And now just this last year, we have had multiple teams like, well, why don't I just come in for, like, why don't you just give us second grade feedback as a team? And in comes the math teacher and the reading teacher and the special ed teacher. And so it's like really become so much more of a, like you said, a positive collaborative experience where people are really, it's like we're working together on this.
Great,
And-
that's good.
sorry.
Well,
I was just gonna say though, like with the, I just lost my train of thought. The ESAL, the trust. She also talked about trust and how like he's been there 3 years, she's been there. Well, you've been there all 5 years that I've been there. But I think that too with the ESAL was a big thing. Like they're not scary to me. Like I see them as like a partner. I know Abby feels the same way, and that like the ESAL thing to me doesn't feel scary anymore. Again, it's just an opportunity to grow, but that takes time to develop that trust. And I think that's also what Courtney's seeing. We're establishing these relationships by them being in the same buildings year to year.
thank you. And one last comment for the two teachers that are here, because, and Katie, you particularly brought up the concept of learning. Well, heavens forbid. I'm a lot older than you are, and I'm still learning. There's things out there that we all run into that we ought to be learning about, and not stopping that. And I appreciate you saying that. And I welcome you, having been here only in your second year, because I think this is a hell of a good place to work.
I agree.
So all of you, I think this was a very enlightening visit. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Mr. Dietz?
Could you tell me about the makeup of coaches at each building? Do they have one literacy coach, one math coach each, or do they share? How does that work? And at what levels? Is it all elementary? Is it middle school? Just an overall picture.
Oh, I think I know the answer. Chris and I are at Hillcrest and Lowell together. I am 50% at each school. Okay. And I specialize in literacy. Chris specializes in math. And at the rest of the elementary schools, we do have a literacy and math specialist coach. I'm not so good at middle school or high school.
Shame.
Also, just to add on to that,
It does go all the way through high school?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Katie and I were actually talking this afternoon at how we were feeling like this may be something greedy to say, but we were saying we wish we could have Chris and Courtney at our school 100% of the time, but we know it's nice that like I can text her, I can email her, I can call her. But
They didn't say that. No, they did
But-
not tell us to say that. But
but-
it's true. It is true.
Yeah. Just their support and just having, just even knowing their phone call or email away is awesome, but we wish we could have you 100% of the
we know that
time.
their time is split, so when they are with us, it's like very valuable, and it's definitely like, oh, Chris is in the building? Oh, okay, well, let me quick run. Hey, I got this question for you, Yeah, so that's why it'd be awesome if they were there all the time, because you literally could just, go to their office, but yes. I'm hugging it. No, I feel like I'm talking to them.
And then as a follow-up question, does coaching overlap with evaluation, or are they two separate entities?
He's got it.
That's a really good one. That's something that we did mention with Joseph when we talked too, is that our principals that we work with do a fantastic job of separating that. So we do not have anything to do with the evaluation process. And our principals are very good. The three principals that I work with are very good at separating that and leaving us to have some confidentiality with our teachers because it is the building the trust and the rapport and the relationship. We have to be able to do that to really build that trust. Yeah.
It's good to hear. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions? Mrs. Roddy?
For the coaches, how do you schedule your time amongst all of the teachers in the schools?
That's a good one. So I'm at 3 buildings this year. So that has been a little bit of a challenge, but we've made it work. So it's right now I am on like kind of like a weekly schedule. So I'm at 1 week out of the month I'm at Hillcrest, another week out of the month I'm at Lowell, and another week or 2 weeks out of the month I'm at Hawthorne. So I schedule myself to be there. Now we tried doing the bounce around, and just kind of bouncing all over the district and driving, but it was a lot of wasted time. In my eyes, it wasn't using me effectively. So we decided to go to be embedded in a building for a longer period of time to really get through a coaching cycle. To get through a coaching cycle, you need a little bit of a lengthy time from beginning to end. So that gave us time to be able to do that. And Courtney is very similar. So she spends 2 weeks out of the month at Hillcrest and 2 weeks out of the month at Lowell.
And I think we've gotten really good, Chris and I, and our teachers, I have to give a huge shout out to them, at using digital means of communication. Those video phones have been huge. We've done Zoom and WebEx, but just being able to have conversations like that through technology has really helped decrease the amount of driving, but still make us available for support when needed.
Yeah, because we're still meeting if I'm at Hawthorne, I'm still meeting with teachers and helping teachers out at Lowell or Hillcrest. So by virtual means.
Excellent. Anything else?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice try.
It was interesting.
Okay. We do not have any discussion items this evening. Do we have any recommendation for future committee meetings?
Keep it up, Stacy.
That's good.
Anything? We'll make sure you let me or Jody know if anything does pop up.
Good.
Okay, the next teaching and learning meeting is scheduled for May 7th, 2019 at 6 p.m. in this room. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.